Hey there. I chose this picture because of the expression on the kid's face that it's just a joyful thing to listen. Listening to music is joyful. Listening is the heart of the art of music. Listening is the heart of the art. And we cannot be too good of listeners. We listen really well. We don't smell good. We don't look good. We don't taste good. We don't feel good. We listen good. And that is where we should focus our attention when we're working with kids, young kids especially, in a reggio school or not. Listening is the bee's knees. I remember my days in college where we would have to take examinations in figuring out if this was parallel harmony or was it an upper neighbor tone? Was it a Picardy third? Was it in major? Was it in minor? Oh my goodness, we were chock full of stuff that we had to listen to. And the thing that none of us liked and probably still don't like is music history listening. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a bunch of dead white guy music, and oh man. And we would spend hours, or we should have spent hours trying to figure out what this piece was. And back when I was in school, they still used records, and they would drop the needle on the record, literally dropping the needle out. They would drop it. Here's a little example of what it felt like. Good evening. Welcome to music you don't care about, but you're going to be tested anyway. Our first contestant is Mark. All right, Mark, here you go. Who wrote this? Where, when, and why? Oh, I know this one. It's the one where... Oh, that's too bad, Mark. You'll get this one, I'm sure. Who wrote this, when, and where? Whoa, I'm not too sure. It could be... Oh, tough break. Well, you have one more chance. Who wrote this? For whom? And on what instrument? Oh, this is easy. We just listened to that yesterday, and it was... Much of my music education, the expensive music education, was focused on the minutiae of distant people from my life. Important people, no doubt. Beethoven's Fifth, no doubt, a great piece of music and something we can learn from. Goldberg Variations, certainly Bach wrote a lot of good music, and I listen to it today. And then the Renaissance piece, I couldn't tell you who wrote it or why. We think about listening in terms of how much can you remember and how quickly can you recall it about something that happened centuries ago. That's not this. That is important. I'm not discounting it. I'm just lampooning it because sometimes the tail wags the dog. And in this case, the tail wags the dog. For our purposes, for your purposes, for the children's purposes, the important thing is not how much you can verbalize about what you hear. What's important is how much you can do with what you hear. That is why listening is important. Listening, believe it or not, provides scaffolding for language and music. We don't learn a language simply because we wake up one day and know it. We listen and listen and listen and listen. Language is structured sound. I am making a bunch of sounds that have structure to someone who understands English. I could make up gibberish and make it sound sort of like Mandarin. It would be gibberish. Even though it sort of sounds like Mandarin, it wouldn't be because I do not know those sounds. I haven't listened to Mandarin. Music, likewise, is structured sound. Music is structured sound. This is a piano. What you're hearing are sounds produced by a piano. You might even say it's a sound effect, something that supports something else, which is wonderful. We need sound effects. They're fun. Are sound effects music? That is the provocation that I bring to you. If Reggio is about provocation, this is it. Does sound constitute musical language? This is a piano, and there is sound. It is not music. It's not music because it's not structured. We don't know whether the child is expressing an emotion, maybe delight or anger, or simply exploring the sonic limits, the sound limits of what this instrument can produce. Both of those are logical explanations for how the individual, the child, is playing the piano. And that is wonderful. And yet, if we use culture as the measuring stick by which we're going to understand someone's music, it has to be of a culture. Banging on an instrument randomly, without pattern, without structure, is not music. It's simply physical exercise and exploration, which is wonderful. And I encourage all children to do that. Again, it does not qualify as musical language. There is no structure. There is no pattern. The sound produced could support an emotion and amplify an emotion, certainly. And it could, and it does. It is sound expressing something else. It is not a culture's music. Because music is so much a part of who we are as a culture, of who we are as people, we are passionate about our views of what music is, what constitutes music, and how music should be used. It's uncomfortable to have people question your musical ideas. I understand that. And yet we need to provoke ourselves to think about the ramifications of something that we hold so dear. We must challenge ourselves to think beyond our history to move forward in the language of music. My question to you, my provocation to you is, in language, does anything go? Or is there a correct way to speak and to use grammar and syntax? If that is so, then music must also follow a culture's grammar and syntax. How we structure sound and silence to be understood as music. Structure and sound are common to both language, verbal language, and music. Cultures. Cultures make language. Cultures make music. The commonality there, the common thing, the thing that they have in common, I should say, is culture. Culture. Whether I like to listen to gangster rap is beside the point. What I'm talking about has nothing to do with musical preference. I value gangster rap as music and understand it as music because, one, it was created by humans, and two, it has structure. Those are the things that we need to focus on, and those are the things we need to get across to children. Structure. Take sonic events and structure them so that your ideas are understood by others. To communicate means you can communicate all you want. If nobody understands you, there's an issue. And yes, we're trying to understand where the child is. And if the child is making music on Jupiter and we're here on Earth, something is up. This means we have to adopt a culture's musical structures, how a culture makes music. And for me and for much of the world, it is Western music. It's Western musical structures. When we make sounds with our voices, we call that phonation. We phonate. Our vocal cords, you can see right here, they vibrate back and forth. And they are actually the vocal folds. They're little foldy things. They're not just chords. We call them chords, but they're not. The vocal folds vibrate back and forth as we push air through. That is for speaking like I'm doing now, or I can sing. It's the same process. It's the same process to produce sound. Some sounds are words. Other sounds are music. It's just sound, structured sound. And being able to use that sound effectively and efficiently to communicate a thought takes listening, takes lots of listening. Think about it this way. A child's first word that we can recognize comes online about 10 to 14 months of age, let's say on average 12 months of age. Let's say that a child is awake, on average, 10 hours a day. 10 hours a day. That child probably is hearing 10 hours of talking. Hopefully, cross our fingers, they're listening to 10 hours of speech, whether it's directed speech to that child or others talking. They are listening. They can't not listen. Double negative, yes. That is, after 1 year, okay, baby's born, baby's awake for 10 hours a day, baby talks at 1 year of age. In those 12 months, they have listened to 219,000 minutes of. They have listened to 3,650 hours of speech before they say one word. Before they say one word. The same is true in music. Kids have to listen to oodles and oodles and oodles of music before we can expect them to have an original creative musical idea. Certainly, they're going to be able to sing songs that are already composed. We're talking about original musical thoughts. If music is one of the 100 languages, and the 100 languages are at the service of children, for children to use to express themselves, what we're talking about is original musical ideas rather than simply performing someone else's music, which is what we do as what music education should be. We sing songs that everybody knows, which is fine. Is it reggio? What is common to both language and music? It's listening. And we listen in a variety of places. Look at all these places people are listening to speaking. In markets, on the street, conversations. It's all there, and they are taking it in. This graphic shows you that listening is something we never stop doing. It's common to language and to music. And then we have emergent language, where a child says a first word, a first two words. It's not perfect, but it communicates an idea. Then a child in music will have their own motives. And then when musical motives, I'm saying, and then a child becomes fluent in speaking and can make more complicated sentences. And then a child likewise can compose or create a whole musical idea. While these two are similar and they parallel one another nicely, those points that we hit in speech are not exactly the same points we hit in music. The musical language takes longer to develop simply because we do not have the repetitions. And that's why we're here, to help give you repetitions and help your children get repetitions. The music that is in this particular course, this folder, is diverse. It is to help you branch out from major tonality and duple meter, which is the tonality and the meter of most music we listen to on the radio, on YouTube, on wherever it is. It's major duple. I'll get into the minutiae of that later on. What I need you to know right now is that you have to extend your musical ears to embrace diverse meters and diverse tonalities. It cannot all be the same thing. That is analogous to handing a child a box of brown crayons. We wouldn't do that. If color is paramount in reggio, color is paramount in music. Major tonality and duple meter is but one color. Why limit a child's music language to one color? The music in this folder will help expand your ears and brighten, brighten your musical palette. All you have to do is listen, and your mind will take care of the rest for right now. That's all you have to do. Listen up. Because why? I don't look good way I should or could. When I'm walking in my neighborhood, people stop and stare at my underwear. But I don't care, 'cause I'm out of there. Just listen up, just listen up. All you gotta do